My phone rang at exactly 6:30 in the morning. The moment I answered, my sister screamed through tears, "Dad died last night, and before you start pretending to care, you get nothing." I couldn't even respond, because my father was sitting right behind me at my kitchen table, calmly sipping his coffee. He slowly looked up, lowered his mug, and whispered, "Put her on speaker." I did, and the next 5 minutes changed my family forever. My name is Emily Carter. I was 36 years old and worked as a high school English teacher. My father, Richard, was 68, recently retired, and recovering from a heart procedure. His doctor had told him to avoid stress, so after his surgery, he stayed with me for a few weeks while he regained his strength. My older sister, Vanessa, was 41. She had always believed she deserved more than everyone else. If there was one slice of cake left, it belonged to her. If Mom gave me a compliment, Vanessa somehow turned it into an insult against herself. Growing up, I learned it was easier to stay quiet than compete with her. Our mother passed away 5 years earlier. After that, Dad tried his best to keep us together. He organized Sunday dinners, birthday lunches, and holiday gatherings. I attended every one. Vanessa came only when she wanted something. Dad knew it. He just never admitted it out loud. The night before that strange phone call, Dad and I had watched an old baseball game in the living room. Around 10 o'clock, he laughed and said, "You know, retirement is much less exciting than people imagine." I smiled. "You've watched 3 baseball games today." "I earned it." He looked happy, healthy, alive. So hearing Vanessa announce his death the next morning made no sense. Dad nodded toward my phone. "Speaker." My hands shook as I pressed the button. Vanessa immediately continued. "I already spoke to Dad's lawyer." Dad quietly raised an eyebrow. She kept talking. "The house is mine, the investments are mine. Dad changed everything before he died." I finally found my voice. "Vanessa." "What?" "Dad's sitting here drinking coffee." Silence. For nearly 10 seconds. Then she laughed. "Nice try." Dad leaned toward the phone. "Good morning, Vanessa." I have never heard silence sound so loud. Finally, she whispered, "Hey, Dad." Unless someone forgot to tell me, yes. She immediately changed her tone. "Dad, I meant. What exactly did you mean?" She stumbled over every word. I got confused. Someone called. Dad looked directly at me. He wasn't angry. He looked disappointed. That somehow hurt even more. Vanessa quickly hung up. I thought that would be the end of it. I couldn't have been more wrong. An hour later, Dad asked me to drive him home. The entire trip was quiet. Halfway there, he finally spoke. I've ignored this for too long. I didn't ask what he meant. I already knew. When we arrived, Vanessa's car was parked outside. She rushed toward us before we even got out. "Dad." She threw her arms around him. "I thought I'd lost you." Dad gently stepped back. "Who told you I died?" She hesitated. Someone from the hospital." "What hospital?" She blinked. I don't remember." Dad simply nodded. "Interesting." She kept inventing details. Each answer created another contradiction. Eventually, she stopped talking altogether. Dad quietly unlocked the front door. Then he said something that surprised all of us. "I want both of you here tomorrow morning." "For what?" Vanessa asked. "My attorney." She suddenly went pale. That night, I barely slept. I wasn't thinking about money. I honestly didn't care who inherited what. I just couldn't understand why my own sister had invented our father's death. The next morning, we met at Dad's house. His attorney, Mr. Lawson, arrived carrying a thick folder. Dad looked unusually serious. "I've been updating my estate plan." Vanessa immediately smiled again. She clearly thought everything was still under control. Then Dad surprised all of us. I asked Mr. Lawson to delay signing anything until today. Vanessa frowned. "I don't understand." Dad folded his hands. "Yesterday morning taught me something." He looked at her. I learned that someone expected me to die before I actually did. The room became painfully quiet. Mr. Lawson slowly opened the folder. Dad continued. I also learned someone was comfortable lying to my younger daughter while pretending to know my final wishes. Vanessa's face turned bright red. Dad, I panicked. No. His voice remained calm. You planned. Then came the first twist. Mr. Lawson placed several printed emails on the table. Dad looked at me. I didn't know about these until last week. I picked one up. They were emails between Vanessa and a financial advisor. She had been asking questions about transferring ownership of Dad's accounts after his death. Months before. One message made my stomach turn. Once Dad passes, I want everything settled before Emily has time to interfere. I looked up in disbelief. Vanessa couldn't even meet my eyes. She whispered, I was just preparing. Dad answered quietly. No. You were calculating. I thought that was the worst thing we'd hear. Then everything changed. Mr. Lawson opened another envelope. Dad asked me to investigate something else. Inside were copies of bank records. Over the previous year, several withdrawals had been made from Dad's checking account. Small enough to avoid attention. Large enough to matter. $5,000. $3,000. $7,000. Almost $40,000 in total. Dad looked heartbroken. I didn't authorize them. Vanessa immediately started crying. I was going to pay it back. The room froze. You knew, I asked. She nodded weakly. My business was struggling. Dad closed his eyes. You had access to my online banking because I trusted you. I was desperate. You stole from me. Those words landed harder than any shouting ever could. Vanessa completely broke down. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. Then I remembered the phone call. Dad died. You get nothing. She hadn't just stolen money. She had tried to emotionally destroy me before breakfast. Dad stood up slowly. I've made my decision. Mr. Lawson quietly slid a new document across the table. Dad didn't dramatically cut Vanessa out of his will. Instead, he did something far more meaningful. He created a family trust. Every dollar would now require independent oversight. Neither of us could control it alone. Funds would primarily support Dad's medical care while he was alive. After his passing, the remaining assets would be divided fairly. No shortcuts. No secret transfers. No manipulation. Vanessa looked shocked. So you don't trust me? Dad answered honestly. I don't. She burst into tears. You trust Emily. I trust actions. Not favorites. Actions. Then Dad turned toward me. And Emily. Yes. I owe you an apology too. I stared at him. I spent years asking you to keep the peace. He sighed. I never realized the peace always came from your sacrifices. I felt tears filling my own eyes. For years, I had accepted that role. The quiet daughter. The easy daughter. The forgiving daughter. Maybe that had been my mistake too. The months that followed weren't easy. Vanessa eventually admitted everything to the family. She entered financial counseling. She sold expensive jewelry, a luxury SUV, and even moved into a smaller apartment to repay every dollar she had taken from Dad. It took nearly 3 years. But she paid every cent back. Not because Dad forced her. Because, for the first time in her life, she accepted responsibility. Our relationship never returned to what it had been. Some things don't. Trust grows slowly. But broken trust heals even slower. Dad recovered well from his surgery. Today he's still very much alive. Every Saturday morning, he comes to my house. I make pancakes. He complains about how I still overcook the bacon. We laugh. Sometimes he tells the same stories twice. Sometimes 3 times. I never stop him. Because there was one morning when I believed, for just a second, that those conversations had already ended. Whenever someone asks me about family, I think back to that phone call. I don't remember the lie. I remember the truth that followed it. Money doesn't reveal who people are. The expectation of money does. My sister believed she was waiting for an inheritance. Instead, she exposed her own character. And my father, still sitting behind me with a cup of coffee in his hands, got to witness the truth while he was still alive. In the end, that became the greatest gift of all. Because the best time to learn who truly values you is before they think you've already left this world.